Hello and welcome to this training from Integrated Services. Today I'm going to go over the use and functionality of the Purchase Order Module that is built within the ISI software. Here I am at the main menu of the ISI software, so I'm going to select option number 1 here for lubrication menu, option number 7 for the inventory menu, option number 1 for the activity menu, and option 7 for the purchase order module. Here we have secure password. This is based on the employee security level that you set within the ISI software. I'm going to enter our password and we'll have access to the purchase order module. Now that we have enabled the purchase order module in the system and have arrived here at the purchase order module screen, I'm going to show you how to create a purchase order. First option up here at the top is POW, that stands for Purchase Order Worksheet. That's where we're going to build our items that we're going to order. Once that's finalized, we will create a purchase order. And once that purchase order has arrived and been received, we can see the results in the reports menu. The last option will exit out of this screen back to the ISI software. So let's create a purchase order worksheet. We have 3 options here. We can create a manual purchase order, build it part by part. The next one is create an auto-generated purchase order that will automatically create items on this purchase order worksheet based on your recent usage. And the last option is to view and edit an existing POW that you have saved in your system. For now, I'm going to create a manual purchase order. First option here is to select the vendor. I'm going to select Valvoline. Click OK. And it creates a blank worksheet here. Up here is the purchase order number that's been assigned. It is assigned sequentially and it is non-editable. The vendor is Valvoline. It's created as of this moment, which is in our case September 12th. And last updated same day. At the bottom, we have options to save this particular purchase order worksheet in its existing format. We can add a part. We can delete the purchase order, start fresh. We can print the purchase order worksheet. Show criteria is specifically for auto-generated, and that will not apply in this case. We can close this screen. It will save this purchase order worksheet if you click on close. So the first step, let's add a part. And we're going to add an air filter. And this list of parts that shows up in here are all the parts in the ISI software inventory that have Valvoline as its primary vendor setup. So I'm going to select an item off of this list, click OK, and it will add this information in here for this part. Let's go through some of this information. The quantity on hand for this particular part is 10. 10 will be in the sales unit. I'll explain that in a moment. Quantity on order. If I had an existing purchase order that had not yet been received, it would show quantity on order here. Currently there is none. Average daily usage is for auto-generated purposes. The suggested sales unit quantity is 0. That is a setting in the inventory setup that will tell when you place this item on the work order for a customer, it will automatically set it to 0 and you can manually add the actual number of filters you would put in there. The sales unit is set as UN, that is unit. That is how you would typically sell this. You'd sell probably one at a time. Things like each for an individual item, quart or liter for oil, pint for some additives. That would be your sales unit. That is how the inventory is managed. So this number, quantity on hand, is based on this sales unit. So there are 10 individual filters in stock right now. Sales unit quantity, this is just a number that's placed in the item setup that gives you an idea of what you typically would order. In this case, it's left open-ended at 0. Sales unit cost is located here, so you can see what you pay to bring that into inventory. The unit ratio here is 3, and that tags along with the purchase units. Purchase unit is in a case. So when you buy this from your supplier, it comes in a box, and in that box or case there are 3 individual filters. Right over here is what we're going to select to order from our vendor. I'm going to put in the number 2 in here, so I will be ordering 2 cases, and that will bring a total of 6 filters into my inventory. So this information here is standard for any of the purchase orders that are built, whether it's manually or auto-generated. So I'm going to select another part here. I'm going to actually go down to oil filters and select one of those. And again, there's my list with the appropriate parts for this vendor. I'm going to select this oil filter and bring it into inventory, and it adds a line in here. You'll notice it will put these items in alphanumeric order. So if I add another air filter, it would actually put this above the oil filter line. But here we have 36 on hand. We have a sales unit of 0. We sell them in eaches, which is just what we would expect. Sales unit cost is $2.05. And here our unit ratio is, in a case, there are actually 12 individual filters. So if I add another 2 cases, I would be adding 24 filters, bringing this total up to then 60. From here, we have some buttons now enabled at the bottom. The Create PO button will finalize this item and the numbers that we are ordering and create a purchase order, and it would then clear this worksheet and put it into the next section up here, which is the PO screen section. We can now also delete a part. So if we say, I don't want to have this item, I decided I don't need it, 10 is enough, I can actually delete the part. It will ask me to confirm that, and you'll see it removes it from that list. So I'm going to add a part again. I actually ordered the wrong air filter, so I'm going to select the correct one, and in this case you'll see it is above there because VA comes before VO alphabetically. So now I have 3 on hand. It automatically jumps to the screen to where I'm going to add an item in the order quantity. So I'm going to add 4 cases of 3, so 12 parts. Once I have this finalized, I can then create a purchase order. I can, again, delete the whole thing, print this, and close. Like, again, close will bring us back to the menu, and you'll see it will ask me to save changes. I say yes. I'm going to go up here to my purchase order and click on View or Edit. There's my purchase order. So I can select this now. I'm satisfied with what I have. I'm going to create a purchase order. So I click on Create PO. It gives me a warning that this process cannot be reversed. So this locks what we have on this purchase order worksheet, and it will create a purchase order. It will then give me that option to print it or look at it, and you'll see that that is now gone from the list. If we go over to purchase order, we can see that our purchase order number 35 is now here, and all these items are now non-editable. So that's how you create a manual purchase order. Okay, now that we've looked at generating a manual purchase order, I want to look at creating an auto-generated purchase order worksheet. So up at the POW screen again, this time we're going to select auto-generated worksheet. This is going to give us some criteria, which is going to create a date range, calculate usage of those items within that date range, and determine what needs to be ordered based on the days to next order and shipping days. So here's how it works. If we select our vendor, we're going to select Valvoline. We have a category list here. We can select a specific category. You can also leave this blank so it will select all items from this particular vendor. Next, we're going to create a range of dates. So for this, I'm going to start with month of August. And I want to go through our current today's date. That is going to be the 12th in this case. Next is the days until next order. So this is how often do you place an order. What this calculation is going to do is determine how much quantity you need to get by until you receive your subsequent order, which is the order after the one we're placing right now. So if we order on a weekly basis, for example, I would say 7 days. If then we receive our order 3 days, I'm going to put in here, after that order is placed, then it will take these 10 days, look at our usage for the items, and see what we're going to be running out of in these 10 days. This is a pretty lean way to run this, and so you may want to add some subsequent days to give you some leeway. If the shipping is delayed, for example, if there's a back order on any items, then we want to maybe pad our days so that we, in this case, I'm going to add a week, 7 days worth of usage as a buffer so that we don't run out of product during the day in case there's any unforeseen circumstances. Standard shipping days, I will leave it 3. This checkbox here will, if it is unchecked, it will ignore any quantity on order in order to place the next order. If we check this box, it will look at any purchase orders that we have that are ordering product and take that into account when it's doing its calculations. So let's go ahead and click OK, and we'll run this update. One thing to note on the date range is that it is a limitation of going back a maximum of 90 days on those days. So we have created an order here. So let me click OK here, and I will go up here and view our auto-generated work order. So here are the items that we have placed on order. You can see the grid looks very similar to what we saw for the manually generated purchase order. Each item has its own block of information. In this case, however, we do see there is an average daily usage here. 0.3, we have an average daily usage of 6, 19.81 for this particular product. So that's what our average daily usage has calculated based on our date range, and it is suggesting we order these amounts. We can manually edit any of these amounts. Say we want to add an additional unit here, we can do so. Say we want to order 2 units here. Maybe 21 cases is a little too much. Maybe we want to order 20. And it's all up to you. Now, we can also add additional items to this order. So let's just say we want to add a particular item. I'm going to grab an oil filter here and add that on here. So here's my oil filters. I'm going to select VO15 and add that onto this list. And it does put it in alphanumeric order. One thing to note is that even though this is an auto-generated purchase order, any items that are manually entered will have a 0 usage, average daily usage, because it was not calculated and automatically put on here. We do have 13 in stock. We have 12 per case, so we can order, say, an additional case if we so desire. Once we have finalized this, we can look through the rest of the items here. We have engine oil noted down here, and again we see our average daily usage here for those items. Once we're satisfied, we can then go ahead and hit create a purchase order. It will give us a warning, say that no changes can be made to these items after this is done. Say yes, and it will then generate the purchase order. It will ask us if we'd like to print. In this case, I'm not going to print. That's the process to auto-generate a purchase order. As we look over here, we can then look and see there is our auto-generated purchase order. We can see that these fields are now locked in place and that we can no longer edit them. Now that we have created a purchase order, I'm going to show you how we can deliver this purchase order to the vendor. We can save a copy of it, we can print it out, we can then receive it or delete it. So here at the bottom are our buttons to receive the purchase order. We'll look at that in a moment. Print the purchase order or delete the purchase order. I'm going to look at printing the purchase order, and it will come up with 4 possible actions. First one is print to the screen, and it will show it just like we see back here. We can send it directly to a printer, and it will print this information in a form that we can then send off either by fax or regular mail to the vendor. We can print it to a text file, and that will save it in a plain text format, or we can print it to a PDF file. This is going to be probably the most beneficial for us, so we'll look at this. I'm going to click OK here. Here we have identified the target directory this file will go into. Here is the file name. It includes the purchase order number, as we see here. And once we click on Save, it will then create and save this purchase order as a PDF. So if we navigate up here to our toolbar, we see our file folder icon here. We can click on this, and I'll show you where this file is located. There's our target directory file there. As we scroll down here, we will find our purchase order. Here it is right here. So we can click on open it, and this is what the PDF will look like. This is the document that will be sent to the vendor. I'm going to go ahead and close this. You can then take that, attach it to an email, and send it off to your vendor. Now that we've sent it off to our vendor, days have gone by, we've now received these items, so we can then process a receiving off of this purchase order. So if I click on the Receive Purchase Order, it gives me 3 different options here. If I click the Receive All, it will receive the full amount of every item on this purchase order. Clear All, if you've started and just want to start fresh, that will clear the items. Done means you have completed your receivings. So if I click Receive All, it will fill in the receiving quantity here for each one of these items, and it will equal the items that have been ordered. If you did not receive all your items, say this particular item, we only have received 20 cases. There is a flag here where you can opt to create a backorder purchase order. Say we want to continue to wait for this one outstanding case of product. it will create a child back order. Let's modify this to 10 cases. We click on our child PO. We would receive the rest of the items in completion, but then we'll create a back ordered PO for this one particular item. So let's see how that works. We'll click on done. So we have received this purchase order. We say yes. We can then print the results to the screen, send to the printer, or print the file. So I'll send it to the screen for now, and you'll see what that receiving looks like. Here we have our items. I'm looking for our back ordered item here. VO88. We have received 10 items, and we have a back ordered item of 11. So here is our items back ordered section at the bottom. Child purchase order number, it shows the same purchase order number, the dot, and instead of a 0 for the initial purchase order, it shows .1. This is the first iteration of this. So this is a back order. This is a child back order. So we close our screen here and cancel. Now you'll see we still have a purchase order in the system here. And if we look at that, we will see there's one item on here, and we're still waiting for 11 cases of that particular item. Say they came in the next day, we could then receive the purchase order, receive all, click on done. Yes, we want to receive that. I'll print this to the screen again. And there is our secondary purchase order, fully received. And as I close the screen, cancel all this, you'll see we have no pending purchase orders here. If you want to look back on previous receivings, we can go to the report screen here, and it will show us PO receiving screen here. And for our last purchase order that we have here, we have two entries. There's the initial receiving, and here is the secondary receiving the back ordered amounts. We look at those, it will look just like what we saw just a few moments ago. And that is how you receive purchase orders. So we've gone through the entire process. We've created the POW worksheet. We've then finalized that, created a purchase order, created the document, sent it to the vendor, then received the purchase order, and we have the final receivings listed here. Thank you very much. I hope that answers many questions. If you have anything further, please feel free to call our support department. It's 1-800-252-3099, and our support techs will be happy to walk you through any questions or help you with any issues. I'm going to exit the application here now, and we return back to our ISI software. Thank you very much.